This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life. You people, you need to eat some fucking fiber. What the fuck is going on out there? Do you eat vegetables? How about some dried fruit? What am I talking about? My studio is in an office building. There's an upstairs and a downstairs. You got 2 bathrooms on each level. You got a men's and a women's upstairs. You got a men's and a women's downstairs. Upstairs, there's only 2 offices being rented currently, and there's a total of like 18 or something. So it's a lot of empty space. Downstairs, you got 2 rented, and there's like 3 of them. So, it's me upstairs, and this one other dude. There's no women up here. Still, I wouldn't go in the women's bathroom. That's just, I don't know. It's just fucked up. But now I have to. And why do I have to? Because this nasty motherfucker down the hall from me, every time he goes in there, I don't know how to describe it. He needs to eat some fucking fiber. It's like brown paste stuck in the fucking toilet. And I'm not even gonna pee in that. That's disgusting. Eat some fucking raisins. What the fuck is going on out there? But please, take care of yourselves. Eat some fiber. It helps. It helps a lot. Keeps your blood clean. Keeps everything flowing right through very smoothly. Keeps your blood sugar levels even. Keeps you satiated for a longer period of time. Eat some fiber. Ugh. My battery's gonna die soon, so I'm hoping we can do this in one take. Enough about that. I did a painting, a commission, and I fucked it up. As I was finishing the pencils on it, I realized I did it on the wrong paper, a very thin paper. And I knew what would happen. But I was thinking optimistically. I scanned those pencils. I scanned those motherfuckers. And when I went in that paper with my washes, that paper just buckled up like a crazy thing and dried with like canyons everywhere in it, just rippled surface. I couldn't paint on it anymore, and I'm not going to give someone an original. It looks like that. It looked like shit. I knew it was going to happen. Anyways, I remember, right? I just plugged it in. I'm good. I got this shit down. Smooth. So I knew it was fucked. But I scanned the pencils. I'm not going to give anyone a fucked up painting like I said. So, I formulated a new plan. I'm going to print out those pencils onto a mid-tone paper, which I knew would take the paint because I've used it before. And I knew that when the water hit the print line, which was like a brown, like it was graphite gray, on a mid-tone paper. So I knew when the water hit it, you'd lose that image. So I went in with a black colored pencil, knowing the wax would resist the water. And as I'm doing it, I'm starting to render a bit. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm used to doing the rendering, the values in washes. Now I'm doing the rendering, the values in this color pencil. I'm getting some cool looking textures. I'm having fun. I'm learning. I'm in that discovery zone, but familiar enough with it that I'm not fucking it up. Then I hit it with those washes that fucked up the other painting. Perfection. Now those washes are drying and I can keep going. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lesson in this that I learned. And that lesson is mistakes are our greatest teacher. And I know I've said it, but when something fucks up, I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset. I wasn't like, fuck, it didn't ruin my day. A year ago, that would have fucked me up for a long time. Fuck, I fucked it up. I gotta do all this shit over again. I've been so pissed about the time loss. But now that I'm on a journey, like, this is just part of it. It's about to teach me something, and it did. So now I got this technique, which I've never used before, which I only have used now because of the mistake I made. So now I want to start using this intently moving forward. Anyway, teachers are our greatest mistakes. This keeps cutting off because I made a mistake. I didn't charge a fucking camera in time. So I've learned from that. I'm not mad about it. I'm just rolling with it. Right now, on this episode, I'm recording this the day before, but tomorrow, and on this episode, you're going to see now, you have no idea what I'm talking about now. I got Klaus Janson, I got Tim Sale, I got Jim Mahfood, I got me, and my art dealer, Jason Schachter from Essential Sequential. We went on a live stream, and this is the recording of that live stream. Assuming everyone that I just mentioned shows up, we'll be good. Even if not, we'll be fine, but that's why I'm saying I'm recording this early. So if someone's not on the show you're about to watch, that's why. There's a chance Mr. Eric Canetti might pop in. We're going to be inking Tim Sale's thumbnails and talking about it. Tim's just there to guide us. Klaus is always there to guide us. Master Yoda Klaus. Master Yoda Eric's in there. Mad Stylist Mahfood is there. It's going to be awesome. Anyways, the pieces we did are up for auction. Link below. Please bid. We're raising money for something good. We always are. Thanks again for listening. Please subscribe. Please like. Please comment. Let me know what you think. Later.
The Facebook page, Tim.
What?
It's the Facebook page for Essential Sequential.
Okay, I'm on that.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
But
Let's say hi. Let's say hello to everybody.
the Facebook page. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Facebook page.
Hey everybody, we're getting Tim set up here. Tim Sale is out in Seattle. Say hi, Tim. Say everybody on La La Land, except he just
we just lost him.
we just lost him. Sean's down in Atlanta. Jim's out in Portland. Klaus is in New York City.
Yay!
Hopefully, we'll get Tim back here in a second. I think
Yes.
he clicked the wrong button. And I guess while we're waiting for Tim, you guys want to show what each of you are doing? Let's see. We'll start with.
Sure.
Who we're going to start with?
Okay.
Jim, why don't you? There you go. Go ahead, Jim.
Tim's back. Okay, I'm doing. I have a beautiful
Sure.
drawing here,
Okay.
and then I also have beautiful Vampirilla drawing.
Oh, okay.
And what made you choose those?
Love the composition, and I love the characters, and I love that there's tons of black that's going to be happening in these pieces.
Yep.
So these are going to be high contrast, dynamic, badass images.
And feel
I mean,
free if you want
the art-
to change that to the red costume with the double D's.
Right. Okay. I kind of like the yellow though. This
Okay, good.
is a classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Cool.
Who are on? We're on Sean the Trap God.
Yes. So I'm doing the same one as Jim, and I was torn between this, one of the Jokers, and Grundy. And I didn't pick the Grundy because I thought it would go too fast, and it was so graphic. There wasn't a lot of room to noodle a bit. And this Daredevil had the graphic quality, and there's room for me to kind of get in there and experiment with texture and brush mark making and it's a solid composition, and I love Daredevil.
All right.
Okay.
I'm doing a Batman. Is that upside down?
Yes.
Doing a Batman because, well, you know, Batman. And then I'm doing the Solomon Grundy one. I added a little bit of background to it, so gave it a little bit of.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Well, it was inspired by Tim. I had seen Tim do a Solomon Grundy at a convention, which was just flipping brilliant. Do you remember that, Tim? The one that
I do.
did? Yeah, it was so good with all the pipes and everything going on in the background.
I love playing with the water, and there's so many. I really like working with industrial things like that, and you can just take a little bit of reality and then just make up all kinds of weird shit you want. And
yeah, it's like I'm the happiest when I'm surrounded by pipes and bricks. You know,
yeah,
it's so weird. You know, it's endlessly fascinating to look at.
Klaus, have you ever inked Tim before? Like
Tim?
playing around? Yeah.
Tim, you want to do that?
Have you ever inked Tim's work before? Like at a con or anywhere?
We did a short war story, Tim.
yeah.
How many pages was that?
Probably about 8.
Yeah, it was really short. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that for a DC anthology?
No, it. I don't think it ever went to print. Did it go to print, Klaus?
You know, that's a good question. I don't remember it if it did.
I don't think it did either. Somewhere I have copies of it, but it was the first Iraq War, and they were. It was written by a couple of guys, I think, and I can't remember their names now. But they worked as a team, and they approached me. This is early '90s, I think. It was before my Batman work. I don't remember, Klaus. Do you remember that? Or it must have been after we talked for about Long Halloween.
Oh, that could be. That could be right.
And that's about the right time for the war too. Anyway, it wasn't much of a story, and there was a lot of interior stuff going on. I mean, inside of a car,
right?
In people fleeing the country, stuff like that. But the bigger story is us not working together on Long Halloween.
Were you supposed to ink that, Klaus?
Well, no, there was no supposed to. I freaked out penciling and inking a book a month, and I'd never done that before for essentially 15 months. And so I talked to Archie Goodwin, who was the editor, and we talked about people who had a sort of graphic approach, and eventually he gave me Klaus's number, I think. And did I call you, Klaus? You called me, but whatever. We ended up talking for a long time, but the upshot of which Klaus said, no, I don't think so.
Well, it wasn't that cut and dry, Tim, as you know. I mean, I think I was working on something else at the time, and I couldn't do the deadlines. That was the issue.
Yeah.
But you know, Tim, the invitation is open anytime.
Well, I've been looking forward to being able to do something like that forever, so that'd be great.
Yeah, I look forward to it. You know, whatever, whenever. You have an open invite.
I will take you up on that. Thank you.
Klaus, any tips on how you think we should approach inking Tim?
I think the only thing I would say is just not to noodle it. I think, you know, to try to retain the graphic elements within Tim's work. Tim, wouldn't you agree with that? What would you say?
Yes, and that's one of the. You're a very graphic inker, and that's why I was drawn to working with you. for Long Halloween and stuff. I know that when I approach, sometimes I change it around at conventions just to keep myself interested. But in general, I work from large areas of black to fine line.
Wow.
I put the black down first.
Huh.
And I work with a number 4 brush.
What kind of brush do you like to use, Tim?
The Winsor Newton Series 7.
Okay.
And I found a place that's like half price too.
Oh, really? I might have to get that number from you.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's we'll talk about it offline. So,
Okay. But I mean, I usually like my brush of choice is Raphael, but I was messing with my Winsor Newtons this week and was having fun with that.
I couldn't get. I went looking for bigger size Raphaels and couldn't find them.
You couldn't.
And I know that's what that you use, and I know that's what Matteo uses.
Yeah, and Klaus too.
Yeah, you might have to order them, Tim. Yeah, they don't always have Raphaels in stock.
What's the biggest size you use, Klaus?
Which what? I'm sorry, Tim.
What's the biggest size you use?
Oh, I think a 4.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my standard size.
If you're using a 4 Winsor Newton, that's similar to a 3 Raphael. Raphaels are like a size up, I find. Do you find that, Klaus?
It's been a while since I used Winsor Newton, so I trust your judgment on that. But this is a 4 that I'm using right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, it's my mom's birthday today. She just came into the chat. Would you mind saying happy birthday to my mom?
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Susan was talking about you just last night.
Your son is a crazy person.
Let's go.
I think she knows that by now.
I'm joking. Tim, I had a question for you.
Sure.
Specific question. When you were working with Jeff Loeb on Long Halloween, and then you guys did that body of work, and then you went to Marvel and did all those color-themed miniseries together.
Right.
Was that like an entire decade almost of work together, of you guys jumping from miniseries to miniseries together, creating these like incredible, projects together?
Marvel stuff?
Yeah, I mean, well, starting with Batman, your work with Jeff, like
yes. Well, I started with Jeff in the early '90s with Challengers of the Unknown. That was the first book he ever wrote.
Right.
And then we did 3 Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween specials before Long Halloween. So we had a lot of time working together before just beginning Long Halloween. And a lot of time on Batman.
Yep.
And those did pretty well. But nothing like Long Halloween. That's where we just sort of fell into a big pile of good stuff.
Yeah, you fell into the groove.
Yeah, and we at that point, which would have been about 5 or 6 years into working together, we had a real way of communicating and streamlined everything. At the beginning, it was a mess. I mean, he didn't really write me a script. He would just describe stuff.
Okay.
He would take a credit card and a legal pad of paper and make little rectangles and make notes in them, and then call me and describe every page to me.
Oh, wow.
And I would do something similar on my end. So we'd have these, he lived in LA and I lived in Seattle, and so we'd have these 5-hour conversations about.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. That was the Halloween specials, but by the time we got to Long Halloween, he wrote a full script, which mostly means that he would break down the page into panels and a tiny bit of description of what the panel is, but he would write the dialogue.
Okay.
So from the dialogue, I would have, you know, the mood of the page, the flow of the story, you know, where to put the camera, all that. Part of the storytelling I would get mostly from the dialogue, and who was talking where, so make sure where the word balloons would go, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we only worked with Richard Starkings at Comic Craft, who's the genius at these things. And, so I never did. Jeff would do balloon placements, but Richard would always just do it the way he wanted to do it. Well, and sometimes Jeff would call and say, "Could you please move it here?" And sometimes Richard would do it, and sometimes he'd have to convince Richard.
Right.
But we were a real team. Jeff actually had it in his contract that Richard is the only person who could letter his books.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and that followed over to Marvel too. Jeff had the reason I did Superman Kryptonite with Darwin was that I had to finish up what I owed DC in my contract.
Okay.
Jeff had already finished his up, and he was over at Marvel and saying, "Come on, we gotta do something," and that led to the color books, as it were.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a big collaboration, you know, with one person basically. That's a big body of work.
Yeah, and I was terrified to move on from him. I thought Darwin would really sort of work out, and in many ways it did. But there wasn't with Darwin was what I was used to with Jeff was just talking a lot about and just sharing. I'd share panels or pages with him as I was going, and Darwin was hard to get hold of.
Okay.
So, Tim, you really prefer to have a really collaborative experience when you're working?
I do, yeah.
That's nice.
So that means you got to find the right guy, not just a good script, to make it really collaborative.
Right.
Sometimes it'll work out on a short story or something. Like I did a issue of Solo, Chiarello's.
Right.
I love that series. Yeah.
And that had all different kinds of writers that I admired in it, and I didn't work closely with any of them really. But they were short stories, and so that it was all kind of there on the page, and I could.
Didn't Darwin write one of those too in the solo?
Yeah, he did a Catwoman. It's called Date Night, and he did a Catwoman. It's now been done to death. I mean, Tom King has done a lot of these, and other people have done variations on these. It's a kind of romp through the city, the rooftops, and Darwin had written it for himself, but it was really just a couple of lines of a general idea of things. That Daredevil's looking really good.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
Yeah. So there was very little to work from, and what was going to be an 8-page story, I turned it into a 12 because I wanted a lot of double-page spreads, and I could do what I wanted to do as long as I kept the entire page count of the book.
Oh, right.
Considerations.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. I have that solo book right here.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
This solo series is fantastic. I bought the entire series before the quarantine started at a comic shop
Darwin's story
for like $10. But this,
yeah,
look at that
That's
magic.
a good deal, Jim.
So awesome, man. So amazing.
Thank you.
Jim, did you call your dad before you bought it
Yeah.
to get the price down?
Oh my God. Yeah. I was telling Sean when I was a little kid, my dad would take me to these swap meet style comic conventions in St. Louis, and he would scare the guys selling comics because he would insist on negotiating all the prices with them. So I would grab a stack of books and it would be like maybe $50, and then my dad would like pop out of nowhere like a crazy person, and he'd be like, "Okay, we got like $50 worth of books here. We'll give you $5 in cash for all of this right now." And the retailer, the nervous like young kid selling the comics, would be like, "Well, no, I mean it's 50." And my dad would be like, "We'll give you 45 in cash for it right now." Or no, I'm sorry, we'll give you 10 in cash right now. And then the kid would say, "Well, how about 45?" And then this negotiation would start, and it would. But eventually, my dad would get me these incredible deals on comics because he would basically intimidate these kids into negotiating their prices. My dad is was a crazy Middle Eastern business guy who was adamant about, wheeling and dealing and negotiating.
Right.
And now he's a super sweet, mellow guy, but he scared the comics community of St. Louis in the early 80s. And Tim, speaking of some of your older work, I wanted to show these too because I love this series. The Amazon series at Kamiko.
Have you seen it recolored and packaged together?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the recoloring and all that, or?
Yeah, it's much better than the coloring in the singles.
Okay. Because I love this series, man, and I love like Bob Schreck is one of the first editors I worked with in comics, and he was part of Kamiko at this time, and I believe was Diana Schutz your editor?
I worked with Diana.
Yeah. Any stories or memories from this series?
Actually, I can't remember meeting Steve, but I know that he'd work, and he still does work a lot with Teddy Christensen.
Yes, I love Teddy's work.
Yeah, I love his work too.
And so it may have been a connection through that way. I don't really remember. But I know that I'm kind of, working with Steve, he wrote, in general in that series, he wrote 3 panels on a page. Because there were 3 different ways of writing. There was a sort of real-time thing, and then there was the interior thoughts of the journalist who's going down there to try to write a story about this guy seen in the jungles of the Amazon.
Right.
And then what it is in print, and he would play off of those, off of those 3 different ways of how they talk against each other and work with each other, and it really spoiled me for 3 panels on a page. And I've now been kind of come known as the first conversation I have with a writer is 3 panels on a page.
Right.
And
Tim, is that an urban legend or is that true?
it is true.
Yeah.
And what it means is not. Look, I'd be happy to only do 3 panels on a page, and I think that's really all you need. Although you'd got to get a lot less story done in the same amount of pages, right?
Right.
But certainly Darwin showed what you could do with 3 panels on a page in New Frontier. That's all he did.
Yep.
Outside of splash pages, and but that's why they were 48-page issues and not 22 or 24.
Right.
But I just love that open look, and I was really interested in sort of working against the way that comics had gotten in the 90s, with so much stuff happening on each page.
Right.
So many action lines, so much bleeds. all bleeds coming from Image, and all kinds of noodly lines in the inking, and just too much to look at. Obviously, a lot of people really liked it, but it drove me crazy.
I agree with you.
And I
Tim.
was interested in trying to reach an audience who wasn't used to reading comics. And one of the ways to do that would be A, not work in continuity, and B, having a much more open look to the page.
Right.
But it really doesn't mean necessarily just 3 panels on a page. It means the template is 3 panels on a page, and then you can go to 5 or 6 or more, as long as for whatever storytelling reasons there are to do that.
Right.
But it's 6 panels on a page now is the template, and
Right,
then
right.
it's constantly being broken to get to 9 or 12, and so it's all just
Too much.
yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I've spent my career fighting against it.
Well, me too. And my story, back to the solo book, my story that I tell about working with Azzarello is that, and Chiarello kind of pushed him, because I knew I wanted to do a noir story. And he said, well, you should work with Azzarello. And I talked to him on the phone, and I said 3 panels on a page, and he said, I can't possibly write a story 3 panels on a page.
Wow.
And then I said, well, I'm very sorry about that. Nice talking to you. And he called me like 5 days later and said, okay, I got a story.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
And that story is called Low Card in the Hole, and it's somewhere in the middle of the issue of Solo. And it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. And I do add panels. Yeah, no, it's a little further than where you got.
After Supergirl.
After
right?
that, yeah. No, that's Prom Night, and then
Prom
Low
Night.
Card. It's called Low Card in the Hole.
Here we go.
Yeah, there's it right there. And it's very noir-y.
I remember that.
This is fantastic.
Jason, you should
Wow.
send Eric the new link, by the way.
But there's that page on the right there with the 3 panels on the bottom. That's me taking a single panel and breaking it up just for storytelling reasons.
Right.
I wanted 3 beats. But you can do that and not get that page doesn't look crowded, right? Because there's not a lot of dialogue, there's not a lot of other stuff. And you're coming off of a couple of pages that are just 3 panels on a page.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when you're adding panels, it still feels like a very open way of telling a story.
Oh yeah. And this, man, I mean, this almost feels like, is this a huge Eisner maybe inspired? I mean, obviously it's a noir thing, which automatically reminds us of Eisner, but just some of these angles.
It's a lot of different people, and a lot of illustrators. There's a French illustrator called Rene Guru.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Guru. And he did a lot of stuff with women in hats, covering one eye, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He was a fashion illustrator.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah,
Look at this.
yeah. And I intentionally gave her sort of collagen lips.
Yeah.
Not because she's a hua, but she kind of is.
But this color palette with just this splash, these little splashes of red is
Chiarello colored it.
so effective, man.
He's not credited.
Oh shit. Okay.
No, he couldn't be credited and be the editor on it. DC had a rule,
Okay.
but that's all true.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff, man. This whole solo series was got really good work out of people. You know, it was
Yeah. Chiarello always did.
beautiful, man.
Thank you.
So, Tim, you were mentioning the 90s, like, you know, hyper detailed, obviously, like that fill it, the image, the page with lines. How did the transition of you going on to Death Blow work out?
Well,
I mean, you talk about a juxtaposition from the Jim Lee, squiggly Frank Miller look that he was doing to like your graphic sensibility. Like, how did that happen?
well, I got a call from the editor who used to be Archie's assistant at DC, and then Jim hired him away.
Who was that?
Bill, damn it, what's his name? I can't remember now.
Chiarello's in the room, by the way. I just noticed I was on mute the whole time.
Mark.
Chiarello's here?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hello?
What's up, Mark?
Well, he's in the chat. He's on the page. He said to say hello.
Nice.
Sorry, I just outed you, Mark, on the colorist of Low Card in the Hole. But it was funny when Bill was still assistant editor with Archie.
Did we lose Tim? Did we lose him?
Yeah, I think he just
Tim cut out.
he cut out there for a second. We'll get him back in a moment.
How's it going over there, Klaus? I can see you working it. You're almost done with Batman.
Yeah, I'm back up.
No fun.
He's back.
I like this new platform.
You do?
I do, yeah.
How come?
Well, I don't need to use headphones. Apparently,
That's good.
we can all hear each other, and the picture quality is incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. That's the second time I just cut out and lost you guys and had to reconnect.
Yeah, we lost you, and
Yeah.
you were
Is everybody else experiencing that?
No,
Oh,
Because it happened with us, Jay, yesterday too,
that's true. I wonder what's going on.
and I haven't touched anything on that. Anyway, we thought it was funny that Jim, who was the superstar in his own right, was so in love with Sin City and Marv that he changed his inking style and made up his character in Death Blow.
yeah, he caught some heat for that, right? Like that was
Well, I was told by Bill that Frank and Jim were friends, and that was cool. And so they hired me, since I generally drew with a lot of black and composed with black in the way that Frank does, especially Sin City, to kind of carry that on. So I was hired to do that. And then later I heard that Frank was upset with me. It may have been a dark time for Frank too. I don't know. But me and some other people that he perceived as sort of stealing his baby.
right.
Is
And
baby being that style, Tim? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
well, yeah, but Frank got a lot of that from Steranko too,
yeah, the Outland.
Oh yeah.
and that illustrated Chandler book.
Yeah,
And Jose Munoz,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. It's not like, I mean, Frank put his own spin on it, and he wrote the stories.
Right.
And what I liked best about the early stuff was that he clearly was enjoying what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so he would just, if he had something that turned him on, suddenly there'd be, 6 pages of, strippers in a bar.
right?
Right.
no story at all. And then we'd come back to story. So now, what were you just using for that heavy black that you just put down? Daredevil.
Yeah, Jim.
Just a Q-tip dipped in ink.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it saves my brushes, I mean, but I also I let these dry, and then you can use the dried end of this to create
dry brush.
Yeah, the dry brush kind of effects.
Yeah, cool.
So I save those for later as well. But yeah, man, I just thought that was all when those comics were coming out, I thought that was an interesting transition from the Jim Lee attempting to do Frank Miller, but also still being 90s Jim Lee, into your style, which is a much more illustrative, noir kind of based style with actual
storytelling,
proper anatomy, storytelling, and
well, Jim's anatomy is
Jim,
great.
you're being so PC.
Well, yeah,
anatomy is when that's what he's going for.
Yeah.
But no, it was very weird, and also it was potentially going to be a cash cow, and it didn't. I remember Jim saying, not to me and not in my presence, but it was reported to me that he would cancel any book that sold under 90,000 copies.
Jesus Christ!
Wow.
And because that would have been unusual for him,
Right.
and I definitely did not sell 90,000 copies of comic. So, but I ended up doing. It was a real chore to work on that book in a lot of ways.
And who was writing that?
His good friend Brendan Choi.
Oh, right.
Okay. Who just overwrote everything kind of and was always way late, and I had to try to catch up on all that. But it was a learning experience, and it again was a treadmill effect where I got better just with the amount of work that had to happen in a short period of time.
Right. Did you do a full year or more on that title?
Yeah, something like that. I know I did 10 issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went straight from that to the Jeff Loeb collaborative work, or was there something in between those?
There was a Halloween special before that, the first Halloween special.
Oh, right. Okay. So some of the legends.
But Jeff was in the X office. He was writing X-Men books.
Okay.
So he had plenty of work to do. And it wasn't until he left the X office that we did Long Halloween, where it was a monthly book. And Jeff had enough time to do that then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a question here for you from Jason. From a process standpoint, what's different about inking over someone else's structure versus inking over your own pencil/layouts? I would imagine most of you don't do much inking over others anymore, but did you do a lot of that early in your careers as a learning tool?
If I'm going to go first, I did not, but I basically would copy Kevin Nolan my sketchbook all day and night. But I would do the drawings. I wasn't inking over his work. I would just open up a comic and try to reproduce exactly what I saw.
Right.
So I don't have too much experience inking others, but that's what I'm enjoying about this, what we've been doing lately.
Jim?
Yeah. I actually started off as an inker. I just wanted to, when I was a teenager, I just wanted to be the next, Klaus Janson, basically. Hi, Klaus. And so, yeah, it was, working over other people's work definitely helped inform me on how structure and storytelling and penciling and everything like that worked. And then when it came to doing my own work, I was kind of able to take a bunch of those lessons and just create my own style. But I think it's an interesting exercise to go over someone else's work. You know, everyone approaches things differently, and you're going to get something out of it that you wouldn't normally get just doing your own thing. You know,
Right. I inked Norm Breakfogle.
oh, I love his stuff.
Well, we didn't mesh at all, and he was upset with me.
Oh.
I didn't really know what to do because I had this balance in my mind. And Klaus, you must have come to terms with something about this, but you must have thought this yourself. If you maybe you just have agreements with pencilers. But how much redrawing did you? I couldn't feel good about putting down a line that was there that I just thought was wrong.
Right, I agree.
And so I didn't, and he didn't like it. But he asked for me specifically.
Oh, wow.
Weird. We were both repped by the same guy, Mike Friedrich, at the same time, who had a rep company called Starreach, which he also was a publisher, one of the early indie publishers.
Oh, yeah. Like as in Starreach Comics?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And Friedrich wrote some stuff with Neil Adams that Denny was, part of editing and stuff like that. So he was an old hippie from back in those days. But he was a rep, and it was like the only rep in comics. Maybe Byron Price. And so, and everybody in comics, all the editors and publishers hated dealing with a rep.
Right.
They were used to dealing just with the artists and writers, and as many times as taking advantage of that fact that they didn't know anything about business. They benefited from that a great deal. And Mike was one of those people saying, no, that's not going to work. And anyway, so that I was working with him for about 5 or 6 years, I guess. He was the first guy who told me to come to San Diego.
Nice. Okay.
Back when it was a comic show.
Right.
And the first time I went to San Diego, I met almost everybody that would give me work for the next 4 or 5 years, like Schutz, Diana Schutz and Shrek.
Yep.
Matt Wagner, Barbara Randall, who was.
Uh-oh.
Did we just lose him again?
Yeah.
All right, I got a story I got to tell Tim when he comes back about San Diego, about meeting him.
Eric says hello. He's in the chat.
Hey, Eric.
Kennedy, the Yoda Master.
The Yoda Master's in the house.
Yep. Well, Yoda, what up, dog?
Again, 3 times, Jason.
Yeah. Sorry. Not sure why that's happening. Are you plugged in? You have your battery quarter?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder why it just happened.
It's got to be an internet thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, because it's not happening to anyone else.
No, I'm
I
guessing
know.
it's Tim's Wi-Fi. Maybe the weather out there is causing like sporadic outages.
No, it's a good day today.
Tim, I have to thank you for something. You will not remember this, but this had a big impact on me.
He just cut out again.
Oh, damn it. I'll wait till he gets back.
I don't know what. Wonder if what browsers he's using. What do you?
He's using Firefox. I'm using Google Chrome.
Yeah. Which one are you guys on?
Yeah, I'm on Chrome.
I'm on Google. Yeah, Chrome.
Hey Tim, are you on Google Chrome or Firefox?
Chrome.
Oh.
Well, then that just blows everything out of the water. But before you get cut off again, Eric says he misses you and to say hello.
Tell him I love Ms. Blonde.
Eric, that's it. Yeah, it's that one. He's referring to that if you haven't seen it. Right.
Jim, did you see that? Is Jim here? Did we lose Jim?
I'm here.
Did you see that picture, Jim?
No. Oh my God. What?
Jason, tell the story.
That was at
Dude.
That was at Megacon. A young lady just happened to be walking by.
That just blew my mind. Wow.
I thought it was Eric.
So did I. Poor Eric.
Holy shit. Wow.
So yeah, hopefully Tim, we don't lose you again here.
Tim, while you're here, real quick, before we
Nope.
did we lose him again?
Yeah, maybe he has to reboot because it happened yesterday when we were testing out this new system, and then it was fine. So I don't know what. Maybe he has something going on in the background.
Es posible.
It's possible.
Tell him to restart his computer or something.
Yeah, you want to do a reboot, Tim?
Okay, sure. And I'm going to get out of Firefox too.
Yeah. Close that down. Maybe there's a.
Okay, so you guys just keep at it. I'm going to restart.
Okay. When Tim gets back, I got to tell this story.
So wait, okay, Jason, the Megacon photo.
Yeah.
What? That was just a girl walking by, and you.
Yeah. We were just sitting doing our thing, and this young lady walks by. I guess it was Sucker Punch or something. And I looked up. I'm like, oh my God, would you mind, please, if I take a photo of you? And she was very, very, very nice.
I thought you were going to say she was very scared of me.
No. Great. And then we sent it over to Eric. Dave Johnson enjoyed that picture a lot.
It's amazing.
So it's part of our history now.
Wow.
Jim, how's your Daredevil coming?
It's good.
Let me see Jim's.
Let's see.
Jason, put Jim's up.
Can you?
Oh yeah, dope.
That's great. Yeah.
You got going so far?
Very nice. Very, very nice.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I gotta say, Ink and Tim is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is.
It's similar to JR a bit. Like,
it's
blocky and massy, and it's not as geometric, but it's fun. And the blacks are all spot perfectly.
Yes. That goes without saying, though, with his
Right.
Let's see. Jason had a question of what Tim was working on. He's not currently working on anything. There's a few projects that are supposed to be greenlit, but with the pandemic going on, things have been pushed back. So nothing that we're allowed to talk about just yet. But with they're both with two big name writers. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be able to get working on that before the summer's over. And
Tim's a big name. He doesn't need a big name writer.
Well, he likes to, work with.
I know. I'm just kidding.
The guys he likes to work with, I guess.
I'm teasing.
I'm writing a story, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not about anything, actually. It's going to be the Seinfeld of comics.
It's the story of cosplay people being creeped out by Jason.
Yeah. Hopefully there's not a lot of stories like that. That was not good. Let's see. Greg sent us an email. I'm going to pop it up here in a second of some of that art. Let's see. Tim's back in. Hey, Tim.
Yeah, hey. Ooh, Grundy. Klaus, are you just using the brush?
Yeah.
How often do you do that? Do you ever go to a pen?
Yeah, oftentimes on the smaller figures, right? Or maybe a different penciler. But I think Tim and John Jr. they're very brush friendly.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, you need those bold black spaces and shapes. I think, but yeah.
I like a contrast between a thin line and just a big black.
Yeah.
That turns me on. There's a
Ah,
Damn it.
he got. All right, sorry. While he's doing that, I'm downloading some art that Greg just sent over.
What is the art of?
It's the Brayfoil inks.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to ask him about that. I wanted to know what project that he worked on with Norm. Because I love Norm's Detective Comics run.
That's classic Batman.
It's
Classic Batman.
so good, man. It's like a 20-issue run or more. It's really great.
Hold on. Now we're getting some issues on my end. All right, here's Tim again. Let's see if this works. Sorry about that. Tim, can you hear us?
yeah.
All right, cool. Now, Greg had sent over some of those old pages that you inked.
Tim, what was the project you did with Norm Breyfogle?
It was a Shadow of the Bat, I think.
Okay. Just a couple issues or just a one shot or
It was at least one. There
we go.
Two or three.
So I put the image up on the screen. I don't know if you can see it.
yeah, it looks awesome.
Oh yeah, it looks awesome.
Wow.
Dope.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
What didn't you like about it?
Yeah, I was gonna say Norm had an issue with that or
He did.
huh.
Man, I have no memory of any of that. Well, I can tell you that. Go back to the previous page. And the top two panels, especially the first panel, the way I did the folds on her right sleeve
Mm-hmm.
is too brushy for Norm. And in the last panel too, the folds on that guy's coat. And it just, I mean, it was that kind of thing, I think. I know that I was in the thrall of Mazzucchelli at the time, and I wanted that kind of simplicity in the inking I was doing. It was all with the brush. And he noodled around more, and I had more problems with it. We weren't a great mix.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks good to me, man. I dig it.
Well, thank you. If we had something not inked by me right next to it, I'm sure you could see the difference.
Right.
Let me see if I can find some. Well,
Tim, there have always been, as long as I've been in the business, there have always been pencilers who object to, the inking.
Sure.
And I even go back even before I got into the business. I remember Dick Giordano telling me and showing me stuff that he would ink over Neil. And then Neil would go on top of it.
he dropped out, Klaus, again. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Damn it. I definitely want to hear this. Okay.
Lost me again, yeah. John, I was just saying, John Buscema being the classic case in point.
Is that right?
Well, he hated all other inkers other than himself.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Even his brother, who was a genius over him.
Yeah, that Thor issue was incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing is right. I agree.
And apparently John didn't care for it.
Wow.
You know, I've always thought that was bullshit. And I base it on nothing, just because it's so good. I don't understand how John could, object to it.
Well, I think it's probably a combination of things, and I think that bullshit is part of it. But I think he really felt that way. I think he just didn't like to have anybody else working on it.
Yeah, I can see it.
But he was the biggest curmudgeon.
Who, John?
Yeah, at least in interviews. And he would just say, all these people know how to draw. Nobody knows how to draw since I came along, or something. Nobody at DC knows how to draw.
Well, Tim, didn't you take his class at Marvel?
I did in 1976.
Wow.
Wow.
It was his workshop. He called it a workshop, and it was in Manhattan in a suite or a ballroom at the Biltmore Hotel. And I was going to school at SVA, trying to find something I was interested in, although I knew what I wanted to do was comics. And it was 3 months long, but you only met once a week. And he taught for the first 4, so for a month, the first 4 weeks. He taught covers and anatomy. And then Ramita Sr. came in and taught
Oh my God.
storytelling and inking.
That's amazing.
I know.
That is amazing.
Wow.
And then I remember a couple of things specifically about Ramita. Mostly what I remembered about John was him chain smoking. And the last person was Marie Severn, and she was the best teacher of the bunch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
And she was teaching covers because she was the cover editor at Marvel at that time.
Yeah.
And she actually invited me up to the bullpen, and I walked around, and I think Shooter was the boss at that point.
Right.
Wow.
And I'd done some ink wash work, and they were looking for people to just sort of finish some stuff in the black and white books, the Savage Sword and other stuff, Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah.
But at that point, I thought I'm never going to fucking get it. Storytelling, I couldn't figure out at all. I decided just to become an inker at that point.
Wow.
Because I couldn't get storytelling, which I now find is ironic, since if I'm thought of in any way, it's as a storyteller. And then I was a lousy inker because I couldn't not want to redraw everything. So thank God the first comic work I had was as an inker. Oh, I love that watercolor.
Oh, Tim, what was the
over Norm Brayfogle on something called Myth Adventures, which was a Warp Graphics, Warp Graphics did ElfQuest.
Right.
And they were looking to branch out because they'd had all the success, so they were looking to publish other things. And they found these books, myth adventure books, and they were illustrated by Phil Folio. And anyway, he would pencil and I would ink it, and that was another learning experience. But
Hey, Tim, Greg sent 2 more pages from that issue.
yeah, that looks like me, doesn't it? But like that, the buildings in the background, the brickwork up there, that's more me. But like the way the guys in the bottom there, the way that his mouth fits his face is just weird to me.
Yeah, I see that.
And the sort of the lines coming off his forehead are very Breyfogle.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
But all you got to do is look at the brickwork on the second panel there, and you can see that I wanted to get more graphic than what he was used to. I would have, like, given my druthers, I would have had very little, if any, shine come off of Catwoman's cowl there in the bottom right.
Right.
Here's the other page.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're talking about during that period of time when you were taking the John Buscema class, that you decided you were going to be an inker because you couldn't get the storytelling.
yeah.
So what was the turning point for you when you realized, or when you started to understand storytelling?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, just looking at some stuff, by the time I got to Thieves World, which is the next thing I did after, there's another black and white
I remember
series
that. Yeah.
I did after Myth Adventures. I knew how to tell a story. And I knew I was the only one involved in that project that knew comics or comic storytelling. But the people writing the book owned the properties, and they had been very successful. At a series of it's fantasy shared world short stories, and they were really popular in the 80s, the mid 80s.
Right.
And I think I was looking at a lot of Dave Sim and Cerebus, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was really, before Gerhard especially, I was really enamored of that book. And seeing different ways that he came up with to tell a story, writing, penciling, inking, and lettering a book a month. And ways to make it look interesting visually. And that's something I forget how important he was to me. And I know that, and I've come across a couple of sort of tryout pages I did for to get the gig on Thieves World, and the storytelling is pretty sharp there, I think. So that whatever had happened, it happened by that point. But that's like 10 years later.
Right.
And I'd done other illustration work, but not storytelling work. And so something just came. I had to turn 30 before it made sense to me, I guess, in some way. But
So would you say, Tim, that it happened like in spite of yourself? It just kind of evolved into that? Like it happened before you even knew it?
yeah, and another way to put that would be the osmosis of just reading a lot of comics. And the 80s was a great time to see people tell things in different ways. I was always a fan of silent sequences.
Yeah.
And that really means you better be telling a story well, just in the pictures, right? Because that's all you got.
Right.
And I tried that back in high school, and nobody could understand what I was doing. You couldn't figure it out. and I think it was perfectly obvious. But I'm sure other people were right, and I just didn't get it at that point. But who did McWeeny work with? There was a Wilbur-Roach, or not Wilbur-Roach, but some sort of character that he and a working partner came up with. Sorry, my cat needs in.
Oh, Roachmill.
Roachmill, yeah. I loved how open that was. It was very. Okay. Hang on. There you go. All right.
Special appearance by Tim's cat.
I know. Now you just settle down and talk to the boys if you want to, but you're not going to talk back. Her food is in my studio, so that's what she's here for. And some butt scratching. Was that? Oh yeah, Roachmill. And they did a bunch of silent sequences too, and it was just a sense of fun that they were having, and so almost all the story was told in pictures. It just flowed easily. And,
I love that the old Roachmill issues.
Me too.
That was a very specific book. Some people don't even know it, but
well, thank you for
one of the more interesting black and white 80s.
Yeah.
Book, you know. And it's funny you mentioned Cerebus too, man, because like I was so enamored with Cerebus when I was a kid. I didn't understand the book, but I knew that there was something special going on with it, something different. And the fact that it was just one guy writing, drawing, lettering, and the lettering was such a huge part of the art and the design and the composition.
Yeah, great lettering.
You know, Dave Sim was just this visionary guy, and I loved Gerhard's backgrounds. And I mean, it sucks that Dave sort of like, I guess he kind of sabotaged his own career with certain views or whatever. We don't have to go into that, but like the book itself was such a groundbreaking, interesting, bizarre thing, you know?
It really was. And I think that as talented as Gerhard is, and as much of a help as it was to Dave, I'm sure, to have the book look different.
Right.
It never recovered from when he was doing everything.
Yeah.
Part of the fun of it was to see how he would get out of, let's say he spent all his time on one page or one panel. He would just sell out drawing it. Right. It would have no backgrounds or something, but the story was solid. The storytelling was solid, and it'd just be a conversation or something. And he's the only guy who could make a back and forth conversation really interesting.
Yeah,
and part of it was his sense of humor. He was hysterically funny,
right?
His sense of timing was just rock solid, and the same sort of openness that that Roachmill had, and actually, Klaus, the DD stuff with Frank and you benefit from that same sort of thing, where Frank was writing and penciling, or leaving as much as he could to you, and so it was. You know, the joke would be, you could read this book in 10 minutes, and I would like, that's exactly why I love it. It's so open, and you can tell that there's a real thought process behind things, and it just looks easier to access. And this is when, Claremont was 10,000 words in a panel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Alan Moore and Watchmen, and which I didn't pick up until issue 9 because I couldn't stand the just intense everything about it was so Alan Moore, and Dave Gibbons should be given a knighthood or something for the patience that he had drawing it beautifully. If anybody said to me, okay, we're going to have a guy explode a watch and I want you to put every little piece of what's inside every watch floating in the air in perspective.
Good luck with that.
Go fuck yourself. That's what they did, and it was just so. I'm so happy that that Alan bowed out of whatever sort of money that HBO gave Dave on the Watchmen series.
Right.
Long deserved.
Tim, before I forget, wanted to ask you, what was the school visual arts experience like in the?
Oh, it was bad but that was on me totally. I was very shy, and I was just really everywhere I turned. I knew what I wanted to do was comics, and I didn't find anybody, or somehow I wasn't reading the catalog correctly or something like that. I couldn't find any comics oriented classes to take.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't interested in any of those stuff. So I dropped out pretty quickly, which is a shame. I even lived like a block away from it.
Oh, wow. So you only lasted like a year or?
Oh, a couple of months.
Oh shit! Okay.
I stayed in New York for 9 or 10 months, and then the workshop was just part of it. And then I just hung around doing illustrations and stuff on my own. But
so it wasn't advertised at that time as like Will Eisner wasn't teaching there at that time?
I don't know. Klaus, you know better than I do. I think people were teaching comics there around 76, right?
Yeah, they were, Tim, but to the best of to my recollection, it wasn't a big part of SVA at that time. So they might have had, Will Eisner there. Maybe I'm not sure when he stopped teaching there. But Kurtzman was there.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Oh my God! But Klaus Eisner was just
had a class, right? Carmine had a class there, but not much more than that. I mean, you probably didn't need much more than that, between Kurtzman and Eisner. But they really only started to build up the cartooning department, say, in the last 25 years or so.
I see.
Eisner just taught one class. Is that correct?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder what Kurtzman was like as a teacher.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
Oh.
I didn't even know he was there. Wow.
I mean, kind of a crazy man, right? Or
I don't know. I've never heard any stories about Kurtzman.
well, I know that towards the end of his life, he was definitely crazy. Matt Wagner has a story because Wagner worshipped him.
Yeah.
And he did a short story adapting a Bradbury kind of noir story, but he did it in a kind of Kurtzman-y way. And he told me a story about sharing a cab with Kurtzman in New York, obviously work-related somehow. But it was late in life for Kurtzman, and he was just the crabbiest old fuck. And Matt knew who he was, but I guess his wife, Barb, who was not really into comics, Matt's wife, was also in the car and gets out of the car and says, "Who was that awful old man?" And he said, "That's a genius, and watch your mouth."
Right. Right.
But even I know that he was sort of tyrannical, and hopefully I don't know what his demeanor was like, but in the war.
Oh, we lost him again.
We lost him again. At least that one lasted longer. Hold on one sec, I guess. All right. Let's see. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Kurtzman was no, they're not just the right amount of bolts on that. No, that's a 1942 Jeep, and in spring of 1942, there were 12 bolts instead of 10 bolts on this side of the. He was that kind of
right
guy, and my favorite artist in all that stuff, and Kurtzman just sort of stands alone, as to the way he drew. Right, nobody drew anything like that. My favorite guy is Jack Davis in that.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
The inking is spectacular, but the storytelling is great. And he could put all those nuts and bolts in, and it still looked like it was a graphic design or decision rather than a technical one necessarily.
Love Jack Davis, man. He's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I had that 6-foot Frankenstein poster as a kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The one for the door?
Yep.
It's amazing. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the early 90s, Stan Lee hosted this VHS video series where he would interview like McFarlane and Liefeld, and it was like an hour-long thing of them talking and drawing. There's a really weird one where it's Harvey Kurtzman and Jack Davis together talking with Stan Lee, and it's like the year I think that Harvey passed away. Harvey is very old and feeble. He's not doing very well in the video, and it's completely weird and awkward, and Stan Lee's cracking like inappropriate jokes, and he's like your unfunny uncle. It's a really strange thing. You can see it on YouTube, but it's just this weird piece of history of like these three old guys hanging out and talking together, and Jack Davis is drawing live and doing some really cool stuff, but it's a weird piece of like art and comics history.
I remember that.
Wow. No, I got to go look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just because I love Harvey Kurtzman and have so much respect for what he did. It kind of sucks that maybe he things didn't work out as well for him in the end, or
it's unfair to tarnish him with just the memory of that.
Right.
I just had that Matt Wagner story.
For me, there was no bigger influence on my storytelling than probably Harvey Kurtzman.
Really?
Yeah, I was in grad school when I really dove into into the EC War comics, the Two-Fisted Tales and Frontline Combat.
Sure.
And he was doing the layouts for everyone in there. So I was a huge Jack Davis, Wally Wood, Al Williamson, like everyone in there. I loved their work. But that's when I started to really understand what Kurtzman was doing with storytelling, and it taught me to see the page as like a tier system. And he would have these 3-panel tiers that were these moment-to-moment transitions.
Yeah.
And it taught me how and when to use that. And I loved it. It just opened up the world of storytelling to me.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The river one, wherever it is, what's it called? I remember. I think it's the
Yeah.
name of the river.
Right. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
That does a lot of really great stuff with the tears.
Yeah.
And he did lay out all the.
Yeah. I mean, and Klaus, I've always wanted to ask you about this. I felt like when I was really studying those Kurtzman comics, I saw an influence of Kurtzman's ink line on your ink line. Is that true?
I wish I could say that, but no. I came to Kurtzman much later. Yeah.
Oh. It was just the way he would go from like hair thin to like the juiciest, fattest line in one stroke. Made me think of you.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and believe me, I appreciate you saying that. It's a big compliment. But yeah, I came to Kurtzman and the EC stuff late.
I did too.
Huh.
Those are my favorite comics. Those EC comics.
Yeah, it was. I had to explain to a fan, a guy I've known for a long time, that he started out by saying, "Yeah, it's just not his cup of tea," and then it became clear that he thought it was all cutting the heads off of women or stuff like that, and all the seduction of the innocent stuff.
Right.
Oh, right.
You got to check out the war books.
Yeah, those are great.
And then
comics.
going on to Blazing Combat and
Yep.
what Warren did. A lot of the same guys. Toth's work is just spectacular and all that.
Yep.
Yes.
And Davis, man, I mean, just
Yeah.
talk about a thick to thin
Oh my God.
graphic way of, there's nobody that does fabric like him. I got a lot of the way I'll do folds on a sleeve, for instance.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He would just lay the brush down and he'd create these folds in one little stroke that looked so natural and so real.
Well, and just within like the story Betsy has a lot of jeans, like dungarees, stuff in there and shirt stuff in there.
Right.
Go back to. Sometimes it'll be little sort of sharp dots.
Yeah.
And then with some very light feathering.
Yeah.
And then he pushes down on the brush more, and it gets very.
He did that.
And,
all the stuff he did with the texture of the war helmets too just blew my mind.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just great stuff, man.
This is such an in the weeds inking discussion. I love it.
Me too.
We're talking about folds and the texture on a helmet. That's great stuff, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
There's a question for you, Tim. Is it true that you're colorblind? Does that affect how you approach your line art? Your storytelling and your style are so cool and distinctive.
It is true. I have been told by an ophthalmologist that there are like 25 different ways of being colorblind. But he identified me just through reading interviews. This was a guy in Spain.
What?
At conventions, a lot of times in Spain, there'll be it's kind of like what they do with movie people who are on tours promoting a project. You'll sit in a room and different people will come in and interview you.
Oh, yeah.
This guy came in and he told me what kind of colorblind I was. It has to do with, because I can see color. I can't create with color because I have a problem with either hue or value. I can never remember which.
I would guess hue because you work so well with value in your wash work.
I would guess so too. But I feel ignorant about a lot of that. And as to how much since I've always been this way, I don't know how much it's really influenced my work in black and white. Except to say that I've always been drawn to artists who used a lot of black, and Toth being a primary one. And when I first saw his work in the Warren magazines, is when I just said, yeah, that's so much better than a bunch of little lines and stuff. But it was not just that, it was like shapes of black, not just the shadow,
Right.
mimicking what the figure has cast, but you're thinking of it in shapes. And that's what the Daredevil that you're inking is, just the heavy black areas.
Right.
And the shapes that way. There's no light being cast really. A little bit on the sort of grid by his foot there.
Right.
But you could easily go without that. And there'd just be this sort of whatever he's leaping into. It doesn't matter. It adds to the dynamics of the page and the image.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bold. I love. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I remember discovering that in works and wanting to use these big, bold. It's almost like adding graphic design to an illustration. And I loved how those big, black, bold shapes worked and led your eye and created negative space around it. Loved all that.
Hey, Jim, you're working on the Vampirella?
Yeah.
See, now, that really leaves it open for... I didn't know all the areas that would be black when I would get down to inking it. I hadn't really gotten there yet in my head. It could be a lot more on the bed. There certainly could be a lot more on the walls, on either side of the window.
Right. Yeah, you've got like this.
I've got X's there. Yeah.
You've got like this marked with an X for black. These were black, and then this area over here is black, and then. But what you're saying is like there could even be more.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And that's just when I would approach it, I would generally not pencil that. I would let kind of like the way I think Klaus, you did the Batman's cape.
Sure. Yeah.
You let whatever highlight seemed to make sense. What was coming off of your brush? What wasn't?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I mean by drawing with shape too.
Right. Tim, I had a question with your work process. Like when you are doing a series like Batman, Long Halloween or whatever, do you sit down and pencil out an entire issue and then go back and ink that whole issue, or do you pencil and ink a page at a time?
Right. I certainly don't pencil and ink a page at a time. I've worked differently in different ways. Sometimes I would do five pages and then ink them.
Okay.
But generally, I'd pencil the whole book. And I for a lot of Dark Victory, which is when I think I was really cooking on that. It was when I started working with Chi. I really got to know Chi. He opened up my eyes to a lot of illustrators. By that I mean outside comics.
Right.
So there was a lot of textures and a lot of compositions that were just coming to me that I was soaking up. And I would break down a page. I usually would do thumbnails actually on Jeff's script, but I mean like a page that would be like an inch tall, and I just draw the panel borders.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
I have notes, close up or something like that.
Wow.
Probably no pictures at that point. And then, but it was enough to cement what a page looked like in my head that when I got to penciling, I would definitely do like a bunch of pages, very light, very loose, and then go back and tighten them up to the extent that I could just go to ink after that.
Yeah.
Because I'm inking my own stuff, it wouldn't necessarily be what it would need to be if somebody else was inking me. But it was certainly a lot tighter than what had been there before. And a lot of it, when you're working real loose and faster that way, you're making a lot of mistakes that you have to correct by the time you tighten it up.
Right.
But I did a when I was living in California, I was on public radio. I think it was a student radio thing, and what they wanted to do was find out what music I listened to when I was drawing. And I don't really, but there was a bunch of tunes that I had in my head that encapsulated what stage I was at. And Archie Bell and the Drells,
Yeah.
did a song called, which is also a dance called the Tighten Up.
Yeah.
And if Jeff would call and he said, what stage are you at? And I said, well, I'm Archie Bell and the Drellsing right now. And
Nice.
he would know what I mean. And that's what I meant also about getting back to Jeff, working with Jeff. That kind of way of talking with each other implies a history. We're very different people, but we about the same age, and a lot of things in common as well as a lot of things that are different. And so thank you, Jim, for making that black. That's a really
Yeah.
now that I look at it, it's a pretty obvious thing to do.
Feels right. Feels right.
So I'm glad you did it. I've not inked that, by the way. Some of these were intended, like that one, the Vampirella one, I'd intended to do and a lot of the first batch that I sent you guys,
Yeah.
a lot of the backgrounds, those were all things that I'd intended on, and I do intend on inking.
Nice. Okay.
But if you wanted to get into some backgrounds, that's why I had them in there and stuff. Anyway, but that was one of the ways that Jeff and I would be able to communicate, and that was a process of mine, working from loose to tighter, and then going from brush to pen is also you're drawing differently once you do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, with people that like pencil and ink their own work like I do, I'm always curious as to what the process is, and everyone seems to be different. On my last comic book series, I was sitting down and penciling entire issues at a time, and then knowing that was like the sort of awkward, challenging, frustrating part, the storytelling, the figuring it out, the problem solving. And then at the end of that, though, the reward to myself is like the entire issue is penciled. Now for the next 2 weeks, I'm just going to be inking this, and I'm going to be having a blast.
Yeah.
The inking is like the reward for all this hard work I just put in, because I love to ink, and that's where my style really comes to life. So that was always, it's like, do the penciling, do the problem solving, do the work, reward yourself with then the glorious inking.
Yeah.
stage of all this,
It's
you know?
definitely where it's half again as much work at any rate,
Yeah.
doing the pencils. Because you're starting from nothing.
Right.
And you probably do, as I do, you've got the inking in mind as you're penciling.
Definitely.
So I can't wait to get to that point where, that part of this panel to do, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Don't need to do it in pencil. That kind of thing.
Right.
But DD is great.
Looking good.
Carl,
Sean.
man, you're just getting better and better on that Grundy. Love it.
Pop my stamp on it.
Klaus, did you ever have a conflict with the penciler with like your work?
Oh, sure.
Okay. You don't have to name names or anything, but I just didn't know if that was like I just don't imagine
Thanks, Frank.
I just don't imagine anyone having a problem with being inked by Klaus Janson. It just seems like a weird.
I think it's fair to say, and check me on this, but I think it's fair to say that a lot of pencilers, a lot of contemporary pencilers have become much more possessive about the way their pencils are inked. As opposed to, say,
you're right about that.
the 90s or even the 10s or the 80s, where you'd ink someone like Sal Buscema and he'd be grateful that you were inking him. But it kind of switched, I think, when Image came around and guys became much more invested, I guess, or specific about how much what they wanted their pencils to look like.
Right.
Well, they were also children.
Well, they're sure.
They were very young, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Buscema certainly, and a lot of the guys or the eras that you're talking about.
Right.
These people have been around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna pencil and have somebody ink it, it's a collaborative process. Although as a penciler myself, I do understand it. But you have to let go at a certain point and just let do what the inker does best.
Yeah, we lost Tim again. He'll be back in a second. We got to figure it out.
Studio system, kind of thing, and it wasn't going to look like they'd inked it themselves, and that was just part of the gig.
That's right. Yeah.
But by the time Image came along, they all thought they could do it and do everything.
Right.
And their egos were astounding in that. beginning with Todd.
Yeah, that is absolutely right.
Tim, did you go to? You weren't in California at Wildstorm working on Deathblow, right? Were you in Seattle making that
I
work?
was in Seattle. I did fly. They flew me down.
Oh my God.
I know. No, it was crazy. And they were in the process of building a new studio, but I was in the old one. When I first started, I remember the first page I did, I decided to do 12 pounds on a page just to say, there's a new sheriff in town, and it's not Image at the time was sort of known as just splash pages and then write
Right.
Yep.
I'm going to be Scott Clark this and just draw a big figure, and then there'll have to be a zillion word balloons all around it because somebody's got to tell a story, and the art isn't telling a story. At any rate, actually, Jim came in and sat down beside me at a drawing table and started drawing something. I don't know what, not a page, but an image.
Right.
And he was the first guy that I saw use the edge of a piece of paper as a ruler.
Oh, wow.
And I've done that myself a little bit. It doesn't work as well as a ruler, but
What's the advantage, Tim? Is it just time?
it's just something lying around that's a straight edge. And if you don't have a ruler with you, he was just. And I think Jim can draw the fuck out of almost anything he wants to draw.
Yeah.
If he's really invested, he's a really good artist. The best of the bunch, as far as I'm concerned.
Those sketches that he's been doing, for charity have been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give him time, and if he's into it, he's really good.
Yeah. Klaus, his sketches he's been doing for charity, like on Instagram, that's my favorite work he's done in like the last 10 or 15 years. It's like he's getting weird and experimental with it. And
It might be my favorite work I've ever seen him do, honestly.
for me, it's like, dude, just do a whole book like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. His washes are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His watercolor, he really knows how to do it. How to blend and how to layer. It's pretty impressive.
Plus, it's also just his fundamentals are very solid.
Yeah.
As opposed to almost everybody else working.
Fundamentals, anatomy stuff, like that kind of stuff, Jim, or what?
Well, that's sort of the more obvious one, but there's a weight, there's a thoughtfulness to the relation of the character to the environment that he's in.
Right.
The composition of it. He's not a big composition guy. And I don't know how much, for a lot of his work, Scott Williams had inked him.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much he left to Scott to do. It was always identifiable as Scott. Once you saw it, but it, I don't know. The anatomy certainly is, he doesn't fuck around with it. He doesn't, the death blow stuff was as exaggerated as he got, the tiny head stuff.
Right.
I think our own Mr. Panosian is really it's shocking to me how far he's come as an artist. He's just so good now.
Yeah,
and man, that stuff with like McClat and that kind of look.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, Dan's amazing, man. I love his stuff.
Yeah.
He's incorporated a little bit of Jorge Zafino into his work.
He's always picking up different things.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
another very textured guy.
Yeah, very much so. He's using a lot of thick brush lines for texture and really, really good stuff. I agree. We must get rid of him.
He's also really fast.
Yeah.
Klaus, Dan is too macho. You can never get rid of him. He's just, he's one of the more macho men in comics. Like you can't fight that. Literally.
I remember when him and Bill Ray get into it with each other online, because they were both bodybuilding around the same time, and they've known each other for a long time. And
right. This is the part of the show where Jason puts up a photo of Dan in his male modeling era.
That was on the other system. I think I deleted them because for some reason on my desktop, that image I guess, is the folder image. And every time I look at my screen, I see Dan. And I just, I don't know. It was just making me, I don't know, feel inferior, I guess.
Yeah. Enough is enough.
Well, hell, it got him Milena, so.
Yeah. God bless him. I can't look at his Greek-like body, God-like body all day long.
So are there more questions, Jay?
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Tim, can you speak to how much liberty you were given creatively with the pieces you painted for Heroes?
Oh,
for the show, yeah.
Well, in one way, none. I mean, it had to please everybody, and that means a committee. And in some ways, a lot, because there was always a stamp that was, well, initially, Isaac Mendez, the character, was the artist. His style was my style. The only real, well, and after, I prefer, like most people, to ignore anything but the first season. But that's also because the art was more important in the first season. So that was more fun. And it was like a rocket ship. Nobody involved with it could believe what was happening. It was so successful. But it wasn't until they figured out that, or figured by listening to me, film it first and then give me a screen capture. Don't make me redraw it 10 times because you've decided to film it a different way, or you think you know what you want, and you're describing it to me, and then, yeah, that's great, but not quite right. Now do it like this. And I was getting paid per episode.
Oh, he dropped out.
Damn.
Just when he was getting the good stuff. Sean, are you done?
Yes, I'm done. I'm just letting it dry. There's a lot of black ink down on there. Here, I'll hold it up to the thing a little better.
Working with Live Studio again.
You're the only one this is happening to, Tim. So it's got to be
amazing, Sean.
Oh, thank you, Klaus.
Oh, it really does. I love the feathering.
Looks great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's weird because I work so dry and Tim always works so wet. I like the result. I just didn't know how it would go.
I love a dry brush. I just don't. I use it coming off the wet a lot more.
Right.
Yeah. I'll often at a con, I'll take because Mateo uses cloth.
Right.
But I'll use paper towels.
To pull the ink off your brush?
Yeah, often, and off the paper.
Oh, right.
And I'll often drag it if there's a rain background. I'll drag the ink wash down.
You guys are like this. Jay, will you put me up on screen? I used this burlap to put a burlap texture on a scarecrow commission. Just it and stamped it down. That was fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it was fun.
I tried to make a burlap scarecrow mask when I was a kid.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
loved
awesome.
the Disney.
Right.
what were you saying, Tim, about you're getting paid per episode? I guess he got dropped again. I mean, everyone else's feeds are fine. And
yeah, it's something with his connection with his Wi-Fi, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it has to be.
I'm back now, but God knows when it'll cut out again. We had a long chunk there where it didn't cut out. So
yes,
you figured it'd be happening with everybody else, but
well, I don't know why it's. I mean, I could put Netflix on and watch 50 things, and it doesn't cut out. So I don't have.
Damn.
It's nothing on my side.
Hey, are you guys almost done on your end?
Yeah.
On-
Yeah.
We have a minute or two left, right, for Klaus.
All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you want to wrap it up soon, Jay? We've been going almost 2 hours, going an hour and a half now.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah, and I'm back, but it's wearing on my nerves here.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up anyway, Tim.
Are we getting on your nerves, Jim?
No, the fucking live studio is getting on my nerves.
we're almost done. We'll let Klaus put the finishing touches there, and I think Jim, you're almost done too, right?
Yeah. Just adding a little white in here, but yeah,
Yeah.
this has been awesome, man. This has been great.
I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Who's the next one, Sean?
I was just thinking about that. Last time we mentioned the idea of inking from Eric's little thumbnails. I would be down for that. If not, let me think on this. Unless you have any ideas. I think it's nice when we can bring the artist in too. Like having Tim here has been awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
But-
that's terrific.
I was going to say we have some of Frank Miller's pencils from the sketch covers.
Oh,
Oh, shit.
I think we have to do that.
Should we do that?
Yes, I think we have to.
Shall we try to get Frank in here?
That would be amazing.
You can ask. I asked Celine last time, but he's been pretty busy with his Netflix stuff.
Oh, that's true.
What's he doing?
There's a new show called Cursed, which should be coming out this week or next week sometime.
I think the 17th or something like that.
Yeah.
It's his creation?
Yep.
Wow.
It's like a King Arthur type of story.
Is
Yeah.
it? Well, okay. Is it animated? Is it?
No, it's live action.
And what's he doing though? Just because he created it, but is he directing or is he?
That
Is just the mind behind it?
I think he just created the story, created the
Well,
whole.
it was it was co-created. I think Mike Wheeler and Frank did it together. Or there's a book coming out with Frank's illustrations and Mike Wheeler. I think that's his name. Mike Wheeler's writing. Right? This, the book itself. But Frank is also Frank was out in, was it Ireland, Jason, or England? It was Ireland.
It's in the UK. Well, they're filming it in the UK.
Right. So they were out there, during the entire filming, and Frank is actually in it. He I don't want to give away too much, but he has a small part.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So all that was before the pandemic.
That's right. That is correct. Yeah. Yes, obviously. Yeah. We can ask him. Listen, if he's busy with the promo of the TV show, of the Netflix show, we can delay it until he's not busy. But that would be great if we could get him on.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to ink him.
Yeah, we should have Tim in it too. That would be awesome.
I think you'd really enjoy it.
That water is so good.
Yeah, that looks great, man.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys.
So we're gonna be, I guess, auctioning these off in the next week or two, right?
On Monday, Jay, let's go live Monday because I'll put the podcast up on Monday and we can send people the auction.
Yeah, just check out our Instagram accounts for where they'll be or when they'll be going up. But we're going to donate them to Black Lives Matter charities starting next week.
Yes.
And hopefully, well, you took scans of those pencils, right? That those books we got for you from Frank, Klaus?
I did, yeah.
All right, so there's a few in there that you can choose from.
All right, I'll send an email next week for us to schedule that one.
Nice.
That'd be dope.
Klaus, how did you? Because the other guys were working on light boxes. What did you do?
I asked Jason to send me some blue lines.
So you just went right to inking the blue lines.
Right.
That's what I did too, Tim. I was on Blue Line.
Okay. So Jim, you were the only one who was working from the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Old school light box.
Hey, Jim, I have this book here if you want me to send it to you.
What is that?
Yeah, those Amazon books?
Put it up on the screen, Jay. We can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay.
it seems-
Is that the collected?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
all Spanish.
I did. They did 3 individual. I did covers for all of them, and it was recolored, and by Matt Hollingsworth.
Oh, he's the best.
Amazing.
And then that's the collection with the new cover.
Nice. Okay.
Also, so
Yeah,
it's really a much better package.
if you're getting Hollingsworth the color like that, you can't go wrong with that.
No.
Yeah, he colored Beautiful Yellow. It was about the last time we worked together, though. He just got so busy.
Yeah.
And there's so many good people around now. I've really had a really good time working with Matt Wagner's kid.
Oh, Brennan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he's just getting better and better, too. I mean, he's really 25 years old, 26, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You did a great job on your your pinups from a couple of years ago, Tim.
Yeah, I agree.
Those like poster things that they were amazing.
And then Dave Stewart. So
Yeah, Dave's.
Yeah, Dave's amazing.
yeah.
There's so many good color guys out there now.
Sorry about that. Got some spam in there in the comments. I deleted that and banned whoever that was. So
Any other questions as we sign off?
No, I think everyone's done. I think we're done. We done, Jay?
I mean, from online.
oh, from online. Let's see, give a guy's last chance while Klaus finishes off that little piece.
Yeah, I'll touch it up a little bit, but it's basically done there.
Looks great.
It's beautiful, man.
Where are we? Let's
This
see.
is what I look like in the morning, Solomon.
No, I guess we're good to go. Everybody, thanks for coming in, hanging out. It was good to see you, Tim.
It was great.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That was
Yeah.
awesome. That was awesome.
Thanks,
I
Tim.
had
This was
a
awesome,
great
man.
time, except for the cutting out.
Did you have fun, Tim?
What?
Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun.
Okay, good.
Well, Brian asked this a few different times before we go. How is everyone dealing with the con withdrawal?
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I miss hanging out with all you guys. That's what I miss.
Yeah, I miss that too, and I miss fans. It's not like I don't miss it.
Yeah.
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 But I'm dealing without it just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, I think now all you guys know, I had all kinds of trouble with my hands and couldn't draw for a while, but I'm back to drawing now. I get tired easily. It's arthritis and various other things going on. But so when I couldn't draw, I wasn't missing. I was glad I didn't have to go to a con and say, "Hi, can't draw for you."
Right.
But did I miss not going to Italy? Yeah, I missed that a lot.
we were bummed. I know I was bummed.
I was bummed too.
Maybe next year, no?
I hope so. That was going to be the highlight of our year, is going to Italy and seeing Bellagio and Lake Como.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Clooney.
And
It kind of, I think it's a sign of the times in terms of just Broadway is closed until January 2021.
Yeah.
Wow.
They keep on pushing it back, further. And
Wow.
That didn't surprise me at all.
No, I agree with you, but they were thinking,
That sounds early to me.
September or October, but it clearly we're not going to go to any conventions this year, and hopefully next year maybe we'll have better news.
Right.
Almost everybody I know says, including me, says not until there's a proven vaccine.
Absolutely.
Right.
I won't go into an elevator until there's a vaccine.
Right. Yeah.
Forget about a plane or a convention.
Right, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
We're all gonna, at least the sports fans. I don't know if there's anybody else except me and Jason with hockey. I'm gonna wait to see when players start catching it and dropping.
Some already have. I know.
They are.
Austin Matthews from Toronto has it. He's their highest paid. He's one of the highest paid hockey players in the world. I don't think any sports are going to go. Any team sports are going to go on this year.
They're talking like they are.
They're talking like it, but once it hits one of these locker rooms, it's just going to wipe the whole team out. And then what are you going to do? But let's sign off. We can you don't have to close the link yet. We can chat real quick once we go offline. But
Right.
thanks again for everyone, coming in.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.
All you guys there and all the other people. I wish I could read the feed the online feed.
There's guys are saying, thank you. We love you, Tim Sale. One of my favorite artists of all time, Tim Sale.
Well, about the questions is more. That's all. Not. I don't mind hearing all that other stuff.
Yeah, so, Tim, be quiet and let them give you compliments.
Everyone says thank you for spending some time with us. So hopefully we'll get Tim in the near future with my cosplay. But we will talk to everyone soon. Have a great weekend. Happy July 4th, and stay safe.